If your mirror reflection ever acts on its own, you're in for a horrifying night. Just like Emily. Late one night, Emily was alone at home, scrolling through her phone to pass the time. She had just finished a long day at work and was looking forward to unwinding with some mindless scrolling. The house was eerily quiet, the kind of silence that makes you hyper-aware of every little sound. The room was silent, with only the faint hum of the refrigerator filling the air. The occasional creak of the house settling was the only other noise, adding to the unsettling atmosphere. She decided to head to bed and was about to turn off the lights when she caught something strange in the mirror across the room. She had always been a little wary of that mirror, an antique piece she had inherited from her grandmother. It had a way of catching the light in odd ways, casting strange reflections that never quite seemed right. There was her reflection, but something was off. The reflection seemed distorted, as if the glass itself was warping. She blinked, thinking it was just her tired eyes playing tricks on her. But no, it wasn't her imagination. Her reflection wasn't moving like she was. It stood there, frozen, while she moved. Emily's heart skipped a beat as she watched her mirror self standing completely still, staring back at her with a twisted smile. It was a smile that didn't belong to her, a smile that seemed to belong to someone or something else entirely. She backed away, her pulse racing, but her reflection didn't follow her movements. It remained in place, that eerie smile never wavering. She felt a cold sweat break out on her forehead. Instead, it slowly lifted a hand, and without warning tapped on the other side of the glass. The sound was soft but unmistakable, a deliberate knock that sent chills down her spine. A faint, chilling knock echoed through her room. It was as if the sound was coming from inside the mirror itself, a hollow, resonant noise that seemed to vibrate through the air. Paralyzed with fear, Emily couldn't move as her reflection leaned forward and mouthed, "Let me out." The words were silent but clear, the movement of the lips unmistakable. She felt a wave of nausea wash over her. The lights flickered. The room seemed to grow colder, the air thick with an unexplainable dread. And then the room went dark. The sudden loss of light was disorienting, plunging her into a blackness that felt almost tangible. When the lights came back on, her reflection was gone. The mirror showed only the empty room behind her, as if nothing had ever been there. But Emily felt cold fingers wrap around her wrist, from behind. She spun around, her breath catching in her throat, but there was no one there. The sensation of those icy fingers lingered, a phantom touch that made her skin crawl. She looked around frantically, her eyes darting to every corner of the room. The shadows seemed to shift and move, playing tricks on her mind. She felt like she was being watched, the hairs on the back of her neck standing on end. She glanced back at the mirror, and for a split second she thought she saw a faint outline of a figure barely visible lurking just beyond the glass. It was gone as quickly as it appeared, leaving her questioning her own sanity. Emily sat down on her bed, her mind racing. She tried to rationalize what had just happened, but no explanation seemed to fit. The fear was overwhelming, a suffocating presence that made it hard to think clearly. Time seemed to stretch on, each minute feeling like an eternity. The ticking of the clock was the only sound, a relentless reminder of the passing time. She picked up her phone, her hands trembling, and dialed her best friend's number. She needed to hear a familiar voice, something to anchor her to reality. The call went to voicemail. She left a hurried, whispered message, her voice shaking as she tried to explain what had happened. Gathering her courage, Emily decided she couldn't just sit there, paralyzed by fear. She had to confront whatever was happening. She walked back to the mirror, her steps slow and deliberate. She reached out and touched the mirror, the glass cold under her fingertips. She half expected something to grab her hand, but nothing happened. The mirror was just a mirror, or so it seemed. "Who are you?" she whispered, her voice barely audible. "What do you want?" The reflection remained empty, offering no answers. She thought she heard faint whispering just on the edge of her hearing, but she couldn't make out the words. It was like the mirror was trying to communicate, but the message was lost in translation. Emily stepped back, a sense of dread settling over her. She didn't know what to do, but she knew she couldn't stay in that room any longer. The mirror had become a portal to something she couldn't understand, and she needed to get away from it. She left the room, closing the door behind her. The sense of relief was immediate, but the fear lingered, a constant companion that she couldn't shake. She sat on the couch, trying to calm her racing heart. She took deep breaths, trying to steady herself. The events of the night played over and over in her mind, a loop of terror that she couldn't escape. Her phone rang, startling her. She answered it, her voice still shaky. It was her best friend calling back after hearing the frantic voicemail. She explained everything, her words tumbling out in a rush. Her friend listened, offering comfort and reassurance. It helped, but the fear was still there, lurking just beneath the surface. The mirror remained in the other room, a silent witness to the night's events. Emily knew she would have to face it again, but for now she was content to stay as far away from it as possible. As dawn broke, the first light of day brought a sense of safety. The horrors of the night seemed to fade with the rising sun, but Emily knew they were never truly gone. The mirror was still there, and so was whatever lurked within it. She took a deep breath, steeling herself for the day ahead. She would find a way to deal with the mirror, to understand what had happened. But for now, she was just grateful to see the light of day. As she turned away, the mirror in the other room seemed to shimmer, the faint outline of a figure reappearing for just a moment before fading away. The encounter was far from over, and Emily knew it.